Coming up next on Making Moves, two Florida lawmakers get high-profile positions in Congress that could have a major impact on transportation here. The state's Rail Commission gets a big push from North Florida to bring rail to our area. Bill Milnes examines why the Skyway has struggled to meet its projected ridership.
I'm Terry Casey in Jacksonville Beach. Coming up, I'm going to introduce you to the man who wrote this book, and he wrote it right here on a JTA bus.
I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. Stay tuned for these stories and much more next on Making Moves. Welcome to JTA Making Moves. I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. Michael Blaylock is here. He'll be joining me in just a moment, but first let's check the JTA headlines. Florida transportation leaders continue to wait to see just what new Governor Rick Scott has planned. Scott has not yet appointed a new Secretary of Transportation, but the process is well underway. The Florida Transportation Commission, led by Jacksonville banking executive Marty Lanahan, has been holding interviews and narrowing the field of candidates before making its final recommendations to the governor.
We were looking for somebody with transportation experience, somebody who is a visionary, somebody who is a great communicator, because think about all the legislators in Tallahassee, in the House and the Senate, that this person is going to have to really get very close to very quickly. So we look for leadership because there's so many people that work at the DOT. So there's an awful lot of pieces and parts that we look for.
Lanahan says she expects the governor to make his choice sometime this month. Meanwhile, former Transportation Secretary Stephanie Kapelousis has a new job. Kapelousis, a former Clay County resident, has been hired as the new county manager there. She will be the first female county manager in Clay County history. Time now to bring in CEO and Executive Director of JTA, Michael Blaylock. Michael, what kind of impact do you think having the former secretary in our area now, what kind of impact do you think it'll have on regional transportation?
A lot. Joyce, I think it's a great win for our entire region to have Stephanie take on the position of county manager of Clay County. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience, not only just in transportation, but her connections in Washington and throughout the state. So I think it's going to be a huge gain for this entire community to have her presence here.
Okay, we have a new administration in Tallahassee now. The governor has signed an executive order freezing all pending state contracts worth more than $1 million. Okay, so what does that mean? What kind of impact is that going to have on us?
Well, I think, Joyce, you're going to find that he's going to move pretty quickly in terms of that review process. I mean, because what is at stake, there's a whole host of jobs, and he is very firm about trying to create jobs here in the state. And so attached to that work plan is a lot of jobs. So I expect for the process to go pretty quickly. They will complete their review and we can get on with the work. So I don't really think that's going to be a problem for us.
Are there any specific projects we have locally that are impacted?
Yeah, we do. We have quite a number. Well, the main one is the Overland Bridge. We work over the I-95 interstate on the south bank of downtown. And that's a huge project. But again, I don't think we need to get concerned because I think he's going to move pretty quickly on that process.
Okay. In other news today, the members of the Regional Transportation Study Commission gathered in St. Augustine for their second ever meeting as they forge ahead on a plan to tackle our many regional transportation challenges. The commission is made up of members from all 7 counties in Northeast Florida. We caught up with Patricia Gill of the League of Women Voters at the meeting. Gill told Making Moves that her group is anxiously following the progress of the commission.
The Jacksonville First Coast League of Women Voters is very interested in transportation and the effect that transportation is going to have on our region. And the board asked that I come back to the board with some of the discussions that are going on here and what kind of things they're going to be looking at.
And the next meeting of the Study Commission will be February 23rd at St. Augustine Airport's Conference Center. The meeting starts at 9 a.m. and is open to the public. Well, it's a fact. More local people have discovered the benefits of mass transit. On our last show, we showed you how ridership throughout the entire transit system was up by more than 8%. But did you know that passengers are actually saving thousands of dollars a year over those who are driving their cars every day? Well, according to a Sperling Best Places report, it costs over $14 a day to drive in Jacksonville, compared to $2 a day for a round-trip bus fare. And that's a savings over $4,600 a year. Not bad at all. And Michael, all of this was before that latest crisis in the Middle East. But what do you expect with gas prices and everything that's going on?
Well, I expect our ridership to continue. As you know, we are redesigning the whole transit system. We've introduced a whole host of community shuttles to the various communities and speeding up the bus system to get people from point A to point B. So what I expect to see is more ridership increases.
And a lot of innovation is going on. JTA is working on a new fare box system. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, our customer says it's about time. and Joyce, we're really excited about the new technology that will be introduced to the public. And we're going to try to look at the smart card, using more of a flexible fare system to, rather than deal with cash, you know, you can actually use your credit cards to access your way into the system. So we're in the process now evaluating the proposals. We will be completing that evaluation, and hopefully by the end of the year, our customers will see a new fare collection system.
Okay, we're looking forward to it, and you know we'll be talking about that a little later on in the year as well. Well, some important news on the political front that could have a major impact in our local area. 10-term Congressman John Mica, whose District 7 includes part of Putnam and all of Flagler in St. Johns County, is now the chairman of the powerful House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Mica officially took over the gavel at the panel's first meeting on January 26th. Mica is the first Florida representative to lead the Transportation Committee. It's one of the largest in Congress. Now, this committee has broad jurisdiction over the nation's roads, bridges, mass transit, railroads, and aviation. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Florida's newest senator, Marco Rubio, landed a spot on the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. The committee is the first stop for transportation bills in the U.S. Senate, including legislation that funds transportation projects. This means that Rubio will have a large say in the future of transportation projects in Florida, including high-speed rail, commuter rail, and expansion at Jacksport. Okay, Michael, take a look at this. How does having both the Congressman Mica and Senator Rubio heavily involved in transportation in their respective areas, how does that help us?
It's another win. It's another win for our area to have this kind of representation. And again, George, keep in mind, we've got a veteran ranking member of Corrine Brown that sits on that committee as well. And you also have a veteran senior senator, Bill Nelson, as part of what we do in this area. So he's done a tremendous amount of work. So I think we've got a strong coalition of representatives that's speaking on behalf of the state of Florida, and not only just for transportation, but everything else that we're doing.
Absolutely, and we'll certainly need it during these times.
Absolutely.
And still to come on Making Moves, JTA tells the state's Rail Commission that Jacksonville should be Florida's rail gateway. Hear what one federal lawmaker has to say about Jacksonville's Skyway. And
I'm Terry Casey in Jacksonville Beach. Coming up, I'm going to introduce you to the man who wrote this book, and he wrote it right here on a JTA bus.
JTA Making Moves, brought to you in part by Gannett Fleming. Gannett Fleming, connecting people and places with innovative transportation and engineering solutions for over 95 years. And by Florida Career Tech, a division of Florida State College of Jacksonville. Florida Career Tech, offering fast and affordable technical career training for the skilled careers of Florida's workforce.
Another long night. And I have to work this weekend.
Not me, girl. I have big plans this weekend. Why the long hours?
What Dawn doesn't know is Ashley's training to work in this upscale salon costs thousands of dollars at a private beauty school. Dawn went to Florida Coast Career Tech. Better training for a fraction of the cost. With no big loan payment, the money you earn can go to that weekend getaway.
Learn affordably. Live richly.
Making Moves wants to hear from you. We want to hear your JTA story. We want to hear how JTA has affected your life. Maybe you're the Mayport teacher who sat in rush hour traffic for an hour each way every day for years until JTA planned and built the Wonderwood connector. Now she's home in about 10 minutes, and instead of sitting in traffic, she's spending quality time with her family. Or the Southside area worker who saves 45 minutes per trip by taking the Dames Point Bridge to his job at the airport instead of traveling through downtown. Or perhaps you rode JTA to college and were the first in your family to get a degree and now have a great job thanks in part to JTA. There are thousands of JTA stories out there. We want to hear yours. Email us your story at makingmovestv@jtafla.com.
You're watching JTA Making Moves, honored by the Florida Public Transportation Association with its 2010 Award of Excellence.
If passenger rail is going to be a priority in Jacksonville and throughout Northeast Florida, getting the buy-in from the state's Passenger Rail Commission is critical. So when the commission made its first ever stop in Jacksonville, it was the perfect time to let them know our rail plans. The authority hopes to revive the glory days of rail here by reestablishing the Jacksonville Terminal downtown and its rail hub, serving inner-city, commuter, and high-speed rail.
To support us in terms of our commuter rail, we believe that the Sunrail is indeed a great model, a funding model that we'd like to pattern after. And of course, support us with Amtrak, the return to downtown relocation, and of course, any improvements that we can get the Florida East Coast corridor back online. And then, of course, the high-speed rail connectivity between Jacksonville and the rest of the state.
But according to Commissioner Pat Christensen, recent electoral changes in the state may have left the future of all passenger rail modes in the state up in the air.
Everything is sort of in flux. We're in flux. We've only had 4 or 5 meetings, so we're still learning. You know, we have high-speed rail, inner-city rail, commuter rail, and we just need to make recommendations. So I think everything needs to see how this comes out, and as we get more facts and make our recommendations. I mean, the money is going to drive all of this.
And we are back with Michael Blaylock. Michael, how receptive was the commission to hear exactly what we're doing here in Northeast Florida?
Well, they were very receptive, so much so that they passed a resolution supporting our position to accelerating the connection between Jacksonville and Orlando on that national map in terms of the acceleration of the high-speed rail program. So that's very, very good, and I'm really, really excited about that, the passage of that resolution.
And you know, the commissioner said that they just did not know so much was going on up here in Northeast Florida.
Well, it was a great opportunity to introduce them to the number of things that we're doing in the area of transportation, and so much so that we're actually going to invite them back to Jacksonville, and we'll have the opportunity to host them, you know, and give them even more information about what we're doing here.
That sounds good. In other news, the Skyway offers riders one of the most scenic views of the downtown skyline, but it certainly has its critics. In fact, it's long been an easy target for columnists and local politicians looking to score points. And what's not to criticize? The Skyway costs $185 million and has never come close to meeting its ridership projections. The question is why? Is the Skyway partly to blame for a faltering downtown, or is it just another symptom of the city's struggle to restore downtown to its past glory? Well, in part one of his 2-part series, Making Moves, Bill Milnes examines the many challenges facing the Skyway.
The city of Jacksonville once projected that by 1990 there would be 100,000 people working in the downtown area. The problem is those projections were terribly wrong. The number of workers downtown over the past 20 years barely reached half that number.
So it's no wonder that when the Skyway opened back in 1989, that it failed to deliver on the promised number of riders.
About that same time, prominent downtown businesses like Sears, Ferskets, May Cohen, and McCrory's all closed, and many other businesses began fleeing to the suburbs. Places like South Point and Deerwood became the new employment hotspots. Downtown Jacksonville, once the pride of the entire region, was struggling, and there was practically nobody left to ride the Skyway. Over the past 20 years, and despite the political desire to again make downtown a focal point, not much has really changed. We've never come close to seeing 100,000 workers downtown, and subsequently only about 2,000 people a day ride the Skyway.
So does that make the Skyway a failure? Well, some do try to make that argument, but the new chairman of the House Transportation Committee sees it a bit differently.
Well, the People Mover is a project that was built 30 years too early, but what it is a downtown distribution system. What you need is something to connect people into that, and that's why they have to look at commuter rail, bus rapid transit, or something, and easy access to the People Mover to distribute them to their workplace in the downtown area, and then it'll be a success.
Not only were there thousands fewer potential riders working downtown, persistent economic challenges delayed opportunities to fully complete the Skyway system. A fully completed Skyway would have connected key areas of downtown and surrounding areas like Shands Hospital in Springfield, Riverside, and San Marco. This failure not only diminished ridership, but impaired the connectivity between downtown and those nearby neighborhoods. Now the talk is about tearing down the Skyway, but doing so will cost millions more dollars. If JTA defaults on its full funding grant agreement with the Federal Transit Administration, it could be liable to repay as much as $70 million, more than a third of the original cost of the project. In downtown, Bill Milnes, JTA Making Moves.
So, if Congressman Micah is correct and the Skyway was indeed 30 years ahead of its time, then what do we do with the Skyway? Well, in part 2 of his series, Bill shows us what JTA has planned for this controversial train and why you should get on board. We'll have that on our next show. Just can't wait until then, and you can get an exclusive preview, though, of Bill's Skyway story on our Making Moves Facebook page. You know, that was really enlightening. I know a lot of people just have no idea what is wrong with the Skyway. I mean, they see it every day. We all see it. So give us the real story.
Well, you know, I'm actually glad that Bill is going to take on this series, because I think we need to have an honest dialogue, you know, about the Skyway and the history of the Skyway. And I think once people understand that it's not a system unto itself, it's all part of an integrated transportation network, in particular for the downtown circulation plan. So I'm really excited that that this is going to be, we're going to finally have a real dialogue about the Skyway.
The real story.
The real story.
I love it. Well, last year, JTA provided more than 10 million passenger trips on its buses. Many ride JTA because they have no choice, but some choose to ride JTA because they like having some time to themselves without all the hassles of getting behind the wheel. Making Moves, Terry Casey introduces us to one man who turned his JTA ride into a lifelong dream.
Oh, let's face it, when you're riding the bus, you got some time on your hands. The question is, what are you going to do with it? You can always sit back and go along for the ride. You can read a magazine, or you can do what Sean Espenship did. He wrote a book.
I was commuting every day to work at the public defender's office.
As an assistant public defender, Sean heads the Major Crimes Defense Unit.
I started taking the X2 and the K2. Basically, I wanted to use my time rather than just sit idle and lose myself in my thoughts. At the time, I was writing a book, and it provided a perfect venue. Oftentimes, I took my laptop, started sketching out my characters and things that I had written, you know, by my bedside the night before.
After 3 years, a growing family prompted a change in routine.
I had to contribute as far as taking kids to school and picking them up and doctor's appointments, so that kind of scuttled my bus riding days.
It did not scuttle the book. Casinos Gamble, his first novel, came out just before the new year.
To be frank, it's a story of my life. It's a fact-based fiction book.
The book's main character is rocked by emotional challenges and tries to find answers and meaning.
It was written basically as a cathartic exercise to overcome the pain and anger that I experienced in my life, and that's what I use writing this book.
His wife played a key role in the success of Casino's Gamble.
She's like my editor, so if it comes off and resonates with her, then I know I've got something.
Sean's at work now on another novel.
It'll take me a good year and a half or so with work commitments and family and not quitting my day job and writing at night and in the mornings.
And you may see him writing aboard a JTA bus again.
It was a perfect avenue for me to do what I needed to do. It really allows you free time to do things, because driving to and from work, that's a lot of wasted time, and it helps with the stress. You got to deal with road ragers and even yourself. So I really enjoyed it.
Sean says that bus commute definitely worked for him in more ways than one. Same thing could happen for you. In Jacksonville Beach, this is Terry Casey for Making Moves.
And to find out more information on Casino's Gamble, you can just hit our Facebook page. And if you have a JTA story that you'd like to share with us, just email us at makingmovestv@jtafla.com. And still to come here on Making Moves, we'll tell you why these former bus drivers were honored during this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Parade. And Making Moves launches on Facebook. We'll be right back.
I was looking to jumpstart my career, and Florida Coast Career Tech has the reputation of being the best.
If a student comes to Florida Coast Career Tech, they will end up with a career they love.
I've learned more about HVAC in 3 weeks than I have in my entire construction career.
I'm learning a lot here because the instructors are great.
Florida Coast Career Tech students are trained so well, they can hit the ground running.
Florida Coast Career Tech helped me do this.
The business world can be a stressful place. Running to meetings, phone call after phone call, deadlines. Sometimes you just have to get away. So next time you need some stress relief, hop on board the Beaches Trolley and put some sand between your toes. The Beaches Trolley, now running daily.
Welcome back to Making Moves. As we reported on our last show, Making Moves has joined the social network site Facebook. We launched our new Facebook page on February 1st. Here's a look. You'll be able to get updated show information, exclusive content not available anywhere else, behind the scenes photo, and a whole lot more. So Michael, I know that you are so excited about adding this to our information arsenal.
Well, you know, Joyce, what they say, you communicate, you communicate, you communicate. I mean,
continuously.
You know, in our world, the way people obtain information is ever changing. And so Facebook just brings another opportunity to communicate.
Well, the annual parade through downtown Jacksonville honoring Martin Luther King Jr. had a distinct JTA flavor this year. The grand marshals for this year's festivities were none other than two of the very first African-American bus drivers in our city. Al Roundtree and Amos Ely were two of a very small group who helped break the color barrier for drivers back in the 50s and 60s.
When I look at the Jacksonville Transportation Authority now and see the young black people that's there that have good jobs, executive positions, that makes me feel real good.
This has to be something that I don't even think nobody at the time that we aspired for this type of celebration. And after about 10 years, we knew that we was sort of special, but we didn't have no idea of this special.
And Mr. Blaylock, as you think about it, 50 years ago, a black man could not even drive a bus. And this accomplishment that this small group of men had, look at you here. You're sitting here, CEO, Executive Director of JTA in 2011.
Funny how things change. But Joyce, you know what? We all stand on the shoulders of so many people in our lives.
Yes,
so it could be in our families and or whatever. But these two men represent a different kind of breed of persons who who took the challenge to break the barrier, withstanding all kinds of negative activity around them because of their acceptance of those jobs. So it was just a huge advance for mankind in terms of people breaking down the color barrier. And so so we stand on their shoulders.
And congratulations as well to you. Congratulations to all of them as well, and certainly all of the men who have led the way for equality. Well, time now for your final thoughts.
Joyce, let me go back to the thought about the Skyway. And I'm really pleased that we're going to have an open dialogue about the history of the Skyway and what's planned for the future of the Skyway. And when I think about the Skyway, I think about downtown Jacksonville, because that entire system, the vision of that system, was designed to support a strong downtown environment with retail, commercial activities, the expectation of 100,000 people working downtown and having the ability to circulate. So as we go into this dialogue, I really want to encourage the viewers to look at part 2 of the series, because if the notion of shutting the Skyway down is literally, to me, it's like shutting the door on the development of downtown Jacksonville, because they're all connected. In terms of a strong downtown, the ability for people to get around, it's important that you have a strong transportation base. So as we introduce the future regional transportation center, where you will have high-speed rail, commuter rail, the Skyway, and all of the other activities that we're looking at, bus rapid transit, all interfacing at that regional hub, it's a huge advantage for our area. And then you think in terms of the development of downtown. There are all kinds of prospects for the development of downtown Jacksonville. And I think downtown Jacksonville is going to be a crown jewel for this entire region, not just for the city of Jacksonville, but for the entire region. So I think we have to make the investments. It's a huge investment that we have made with this infrastructure. So to walk away from that, I don't think that's wise. I think that we need to follow the course, allow downtown Jacksonville to become the glory, to get back to the glory days that we said earlier. But and that's what I expect to see. So I think that when you think about the Skyway, you got to think about the overall development of downtown Jacksonville.
And Skyway was futuristic, and the future is now. So
well, it's ahead of its time. It's ahead of its time, but we can catch up. We can catch up. And I think you've got a lot of strong people in the community that really, really are very firm about a strong downtown development.
And that wraps up this edition of Making Moves. Thanks for joining us today. If you missed part of the show or just want to watch it again, complete episodes of Making Moves are always available online at jtafla.com. And of course, be sure to check out our new Facebook page for the latest news on our show and exclusive content that you didn't see on today's show. For Michael Blaylock and the entire Making Moves team, I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. We'll see you the next time we're Making Moves.